My father died on Father's Day 2012. He was divorced and living alone, and I am an only child. So that means that I had to wrap up all of his affairs. This story centers around us trying to get his utilities canceled. I called in to see what we had to do to get them to cancel. The lady I spoke with on the phone said to send in his certified death certificate. I sent in the certified copy of his death certificate the next day. The next month got another bill. I called again and a new woman answered. She said that because I wasn't on the account that she had to speak with the account holder. I informed her that the account holder was dead, but she wouldn't budge. I had to make an appointment with a supervisor so she could speak to him herself in person. I showed up at the Board of Public Utilities with another death certificate and his ashes in the clear bag that they returned his remains in. I plopped them down on the center of her desk and said when she talked to him to tell him that I loved him for me. The woman went pale, flew out of her chair, and called the cops. When they showed up, she claimed that I had assaulted her. And yes, my dad's remains were still sitting in the middle of her desk with the death certificate. The cops questioned me as to why I would do that. I told them the story. The supervisor's boss was called in and they all stepped away from the desk for a private talk. While they were talking, the cops came over to talk to me. They said that I shouldn't take human remains out in public, but there was no laws that were broken. I said that I agreed with them that it was extreme, but she insisted to speak with him in person. By then, they were done talking between themselves. The supervisor's boss kissed up to me and got it taken care of. But the story isn't over yet. I had to call back a few days later to get utilities back to the house in my name. When the person on the phone saw the address in my name, I was immediately put on hold. The supervisor's boss that finally helped me got on the phone. She sucked up to me and waived all the fees that come with setting up utilities. Just as the call was ending, she informed me that she was again so sorry for the employee's lack of compassion. She said that the employee was terminated, and again, she is so very sorry. This happened about 10 years ago. I was dating this girl for a year and things were going pretty well. Both of the leases on our separate apartments were coming up for renewal and we decided to get a place together so our relationship would go to the next level and we'd also save a good bit of money. At the time, I could really see myself with this girl. So we signed a year lease on a new place and for the first 4 months or so, things are great. Then our relationship starts to fall apart. Not assigning blame here, you know how it is. It just didn't work out. The bummer, though, was she started to get pretty nasty to me, and after a few really ugly fights, I decided to move out in a hurry. I got a cheap place across town and moved down on a Saturday because I just couldn't bear it anymore. So after about a week, I cool off enough to call her and ask her to get a new roomie and take me off the lease. She says, no, I don't have time to get a new roomie and I can't afford the place alone. So for the next 2 weeks, I find 2 mutual friends willing to move in. She rejects them for stupid reasons and hasn't lifted a finger to find a suitable roommate. It dawns on me that she intends to live in this place alone for the next 8 months while I pay half the rent and half the utilities. Heck no. At this point, I'm pissed. I am now paying 2 leases and utilities and so on. I got some money in the bank, so I'm not in danger, but I can't afford to do this for long, and it just isn't reasonable. I had found out during our week without contact that she had already started dating another guy. I know that is super quick, a few days after our breakup, but I have no evidence she ever cheated, so no big deal. However, I did know that my ex was insatiable and we had sex every morning we were together like clockwork. She had to get out of the house to make work by about 8:45 a.m., so we had sex at about 7:45 a.m. or so every morning. Our relationship had its positive aspects, and her being really into and amazingly good at sex was one of those good parts. So anyway, I hatch a plan to get out of the lease. So the next morning, I get to her old place about 7:45 a.m. and wait in my truck until 7:50 a.m., figuring I knew her well enough to know it was good timing. Our place was a studio and the bed, our old bed, was across from the front door, and to the right was a little kitchen and dining area. So I turned the key and opened the door as fast as possible, and I was not disappointed. My ex was riding this guy, and I make eye contact with him. I'll never forget the look of shock, maybe mixed with shame, on his face. She rolls off him and pulls the cover up over them. They are both naked. Don't mind me, I say, and I go into the cupboard, get some of the Lucky Charms that I bought that is still in there. I pour a bowl, add some milk, and start chowing down, ignoring them. The dude can't move because his clothes aren't nearby. My ex is like, get the heck out of here. And I say, I'm still on this lease. This is my place, but you go ahead. Don't let me interrupt you. She starts screaming at me, curses me out, throws a couple of shoes at me, misses, and basically has a meltdown from the bed while I calmly eat my cereal for about 15 minutes. Then I say, oh, well, you look at the time. I got to get to work. The dude didn't move an inch or open his mouth. The next day, I open the door at 7:40 a.m. this time. Her and her new boy are awake and dressed. I say, oh, good morning. I have bagels. With a totally fake, cheery smile, I put the bag of bagels and cream cheese on the counter and say, I'm just going to get a shower real quick. She is calmer this time, but starts swearing. She's gone when I get out of the shower, so I make a bagel and head out myself. I show up again at about 8 p.m. with some Chipotle. They are sitting on the bed watching TV. I sit at the counter on a bar stool, start tearing into my burrito, and start chatting like I'm their best friend. So, what are we watching tonight? Oh, awesome. I haven't seen that show in years. Cool. I stay for about 30 minutes, eating my burrito and then asking the guy stupid questions, just being super annoying. I recognize him from her friend group, but I honestly don't know his name. He seems super nervous and doesn't say much. My ex is really pissed and is fuming. The third morning, I show up at 7:45 a.m. They aren't there. I take a shower, eat some cereal, and leave a polite note about how I'm sorry I missed them and I'll see them tonight. That day at work, I got a bunch of faxes from my ex requesting my signature on a new lease on the apartment, as well as signatures canceling our power, water, cable, and internet bills. I really enjoyed signing all those and faxing them back. I never saw or heard from either of them again. I was living with my girlfriend and a roommate, and we split the cost of every bill evenly, even though each bill was in one person's name. Well, that was the idea, but I naively helped my girlfriend pay her part of the bills, i.e. paid completely for most of them. The rent was in my name, the electricity in my girlfriend's, etc. Well, I eventually got tired of her attitude, arguments, smelly gerbils, not doing her chores, etc., and we broke up. It was messy. She took ages to move out, making sure to mooch every penny she could before leaving. When she left, I immediately started a new electricity account in my name. A week later, I got a letter of confirmation in the mail, but I also received the electricity bill for the last 3 months my ex was living with us. I opened it without thinking. We couldn't even pay it if we wanted to because the bill was in her name. I shot her a text. Yo, we got your electricity bill in the mail. It's $120, so come pick up $40 from each of us. Where's the other 40? We agreed I wouldn't pay bills after I move out, as if she did before. You were still living here for the time period of the bill. This is BS. I'm not going to pay a thing. We had an agreement. Well, you can come over to get our part, or you can pay it alone. The way I see it, you can either bring the $120 to my place or have fun in the dark. Lol. You got me there. At this point, I realized that she doesn't know I started my own account with the electricity provider. She thought that by refusing to pay, the provider would cut our lights. Good way to mooch another $40 from us, right? But that's not quite what happened. A few weeks later, I received another letter from the electricity company with her name on it, probably a late payment warning. I sent her a text to tell her, and she responded, "Lol, why are you so desperate to talk to me? You know what you have to do, smiley face." Another letter came in for her. This one was probably late fees. I have to guess because I never opened them. I messaged her and she said, "I thought I told you to never talk to me again." As you wish, ma'am. More letters arrived, but from a new address. I Googled the new sender's address and found that they were debt collectors. Scary stuff. It's too bad I couldn't say a word to her. Now, about 2 or 3 months later, I received a phone call from my ex, and I'm greeted by, "What the F? These people are calling my parents' house. I've got all these late fees. Bad debt collectors." I told her if she wants our part of the bill, she knows what to do. Smiley face. Realizing that she had no other choice, she caved and came for the money. My roommate and I didn't give her a cent towards late fees, and I probably looked so freaking smug giving her my money for the last time. If you don't give me money, then I won't pay my bills and rack up massive debt. That'll teach you. Our next Reddit post is from Sam Unseen. Last September, my wife had planned a wonderful Father's Day present for me. Father's Day is in September in Australia. This was to be my first ever Father's Day as a new dad. So to mark the occasion, my wife had arranged to have our daughter's face laser etched onto a dog tag. However, the day before Father's Day, she received the item back and it was, shall we say, subpar. So she came to me and showed me my present early. For those who are listening and not watching, this picture of this baby's face looks like something out of The Exorcist. It's like this creepy baby face with like glowing white eyes. It's not something you'd want to wear on your body at all. Now, I've had some experience with sucky retailers before and remembered to always come prepared when disputing the quality of goods and services. So I set my phone to record all audio and approached the retailer. I explained that my wife was upset at the quality of the engraving, and rightfully so. I requested a refund and was immediately met with resistance. To begin with, they blamed the quality of the photo we provided. Then, when I disputed that, they said that laser engraving doesn't do depth very well, and some faces can end up with some shadows missing. End of conversation. They refused a refund and threatened to call security if I didn't leave. The engraver is located in a mall that I also happen to work in. My wife and I left. We straight away left a less than glowing review on their Google page. This was met with accusations of us being unreasonable and threatening violence. Ours was not the only review to which they had this response. They informed us that the matter had been passed on to the local police and that a restraining order had been applied for. We immediately called all local police stations and were delighted to hear that they had never heard of the company in question. After some thought, and me being the stubborn bastard that I am, I decided to forward the matter onto the local small claims tribunal. A month or so passed, and our day in the tribunal had arrived. We honestly weren't expecting the engraver to show up, but lo and behold, there he was, at a civil claims court in camo pants and a hoodie. We met in a room with a mediator who told us that it may not be worth chasing a $40 refund from someone who is, in short, a dickhead. She warned us that it may end up costing more than the service to begin with. But as mentioned before, I'm a stubborn bastard. We pushed forward, opting to go to hearing. This is when we heard some marvelous news from the engraver. Oh, I'm not prepared to go to hearing today. I haven't got any of my evidence. Ding, ding, ding. We went to a hearing that day. The registrar ruled in our favor and issued a notice of payment. The business was to pay us $40 within 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, no payment, no surprise. During this time, I had been communicating via email with the holder of the engraver's lease, who, in response to my complaint, among many others, had decided to terminate the lease, effectively kicking the engraver out of the mall. My man. While the engraver was organizing a new venue for his business, I filed a motion for a writ for levy of property, meaning the local sheriff was able to enter his premises and relieve him of merchandise to the value of the refund plus court fees, now totaling $139. I informed the engraver, asking him if he would like to settle like a reasonable person or have the sheriff pay him a visit. He was not a reasonable person. Then OP posts a text conversation. He says, "Just so you know, you owe us $139 due to failure to pay in time for the original order. Would you like to sort this out like a civilized person, or would you prefer I send this sheriff to your new shop to repossess some items to cover the cost?" Go for the gold, mate. That's not how the law works. Once the writ had been issued, the fee then increased to $225. All I had to do was wait. And wait, I did, until March 13th this year, when the sheriff finally attended his new business premises. He was offered an ultimatum: pay the fee or have merchandise repossessed. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. The man paid. He was stubborn for 6 months over a $40 refund, only to be down $225 plus $5 interest.